the most violent racing machines man has yet devised. 2,000 pounds of fiberglass and steel. 3,000 horsepower propels these awesome vehicles to speeds over 260 miles an hour in just 5 seconds. And this is the kind of power plant it takes to generate that tire-blazing funny car excitement. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans, and welcome to the Castrol GTX Nationwide Southern Nationals at Atlanta Dragway. For the first time in quite a while, Billy Meyer looms as a favorite in the funny car category. Kenny Bernstein, the world champion and low qualifier, went out in round number 1, broke something in the drivetrain right off the starting line. Candies and Hughes, Mark Oswald, they've been on a tear of late, but they were beaten in the first round. Then Oswald shoot failed and into the sand trap and net with minor body damage to the car. But both of them are out. And Billy Meyer's car right here, this Ford Mustang, set low elapsed time of eliminations at 5.73 seconds. And Billy, it has to feel good to get that performance back.
Well, it feels really good. It's been about a year and a half since we've really been on top of things, and it's this is where we kind of started off in '84 when we were running good that year, and when we set the NHRA record that year. And you know, we've always done well at this track, so hopefully it's a.
Not others, though. This has a reputation for being a tricky racetrack to get down.
Yeah, it's not the easiest one, and the main reason is it's not run every week like a lot of the ones we run across the United States, and it's hard to come into a track that's fresh and be good all weekend, especially with some of the weather we've had.
You know, your toughest competition may well come from John Force. He ran a 5.78 in round number 1, and Brock is with him.
Well, Steve, it's this funny car and its gallant driver that we've seen so many times in the final rounds in NHRA competition. The last one at the Pomona Winter Nationals when John Force lost a heartbreakingly close finish to Tim Gross. John, you've got second quickest time in the first round here. The car seems to be running very well. Everybody says you're due, long overdue. How do you feel about it right this minute?
Well, naturally, we're long overdue, but there's a whole field of cars that are sometimes long overdue. And I tell you what, with Austin Coyle and my crew having a car running 70s consistently, when Bernstein fell that first round and you see the world champ go down, it just shows you how the cards can change, and we're just hoping this could be our day.
So far, so good, though. The car ran beautifully the first round. How do you feel about it? Any problems at all?
The car, we had a crew session here. The car is excellent. It's not hurting any parts. I think we could step on it. I don't really think it's necessity here since we're running right in the head of the pack. I guess Meyer's ran an excellent number, but well, we're up against a little bit of a weather condition. But I've learned this from a lot of dirt track racing out here with Coyle that we can get down about anything. So I'm hoping our luck will hold here.
Well, we sure hope it does, too. John Force. And you know what? In addition to the funny car excitement, we've had some wild goings-on with Top Fuel. Right, Steve?
Absolutely, Brock. In round 1 action earlier today, it was the pink car and the lady. Shirley Muldowney, the third race in her much-publicized comeback. In the first race of the season, she met Big Daddy Don Garlett. She did again today. The black car in the near lane, the world's fastest Top Fuel driver. Brock and I talked to both of them. Well, here we go again. Shirley Muldowney and Don Garlett. The fans love it. How does Shirley feel about it in round 1?
It doesn't bother me who I race. Figure get rid of him right away if you can. You know, that's the point.
You'd rather get him first round than give him a round to tune it up?
Yes, he gets better as he goes along, so I'd rather get him first round, sure.
The temperature's cooled off. That could help.
I think so. We kind of put our act together, we think. We found a little something last night, and it's hard to tell, but we went fishing. We'll see.
You owe him one, really, after the Winter Nationals.
I owe him more than that. I owe him a lot, actually. But I think it might be our turn this time.
Good luck.
Thanks, Steve.
Don, if you were writing the script, would you have put Garlett and Muldowney together in the first round again?
Well, I'd probably put it together in the last round, but I mean, the first is as good as any, I guess. It really makes an exciting first round, which is usually kind of mundane, you know, because most of the cars that qualify, it's like in a 16-car field, it's like 8 or got a solo almost. I mean, look at some of the other matchups. You can see the guys really got easy cars, but Muldowney, even though she qualified there, is capable of running a 540.
Have you made any changes in the setup knowing you got to go against her, or would you run the first round with exactly the same setup if you were running a relative unknown?
Yeah, I'm trying to get low ET for lane choice. The car ran all right on the run yesterday. We tried to improve on that just a little bit, not very much. Hopefully to get it into the 540s, but no different strategy for Shirley.
Okay, good. Well, good luck. Thanks, Don. Appreciate it.
Rain showers this morning delayed the start of round number 1 for about an hour, and neither driver knew what to expect from the racetrack. Big Daddy Don Garlich's under his Lexan canopy, only the second time out for this revolutionary streamlined automobile, the first to break the 270-mile-an-hour barrier. In the far lane was Shirley Muldowney. She was defeated by Don Garlich at the Winter Nationals, and yet again today, Shirley had an early lead, but her tires lost traction, and it was Garlich defeating her by about 1/10 of a second.
And then came a couple of very familiar names at Top Fuel ranks. Old veteran Connie Collette has been around almost since Top Fuel Racing was created, from Michigan, up against Joe Amato, the former world champion, the man who gave up his title to Big Daddy Don Garlich, and the first man to exceed 260 miles an hour.
Well, this race, rated as a toss-up, Brock. Connie Collette won 2 national events last year, capable of running big numbers anytime he comes to the starting line. And, of course, Joe Amato's credentials were well off the mark together. In the near lane, Amato. With the far lane, it was Collette. And Amato, by less than a car length, survived to go into round number 2 later today.
Then came another car that is beginning to develop a streamlined mode that Garlich's introduced, Bill Mullins from Arkansas, a man who has won a number of major events at over 50 years old, one of the senior citizens, against the youngster Darrell Gwynn from Miami, Florida, the man who won the first major event of his career, the Winter Nationals at Pomona this year.
That's right. He dominated the Winter Nationals. Then he went to the Gainesville Raceway, the Gator Nationals, and blew up just about everything he owned. As he said, one race a champ, the next race a chump. So it's Gwynn trying to get back on the winning trail without destroying his part. In the far lane, the sleek front end of Bill Mullins.
Both of these men, former world champions in the top alcohol dragster ranks, so they know what winning is all about.
Gwynn in the near lane, stage first. Mullins finally put both lights on his side of the track, right together off the mark. Darrell Gwynn's combination seemed to be a bit too conservative, and it was Bill Mullins winning it at 573. Brock talked to him.
Well, Bill Mullins scores 1 high, Bill. Congratulations. It looked as if Darrell maybe had some problems, huh?
I don't know.
Never saw a thing, huh?
I never saw him. We've been having ours all weekend. I'm glad it finally has turned around a little bit.
Everything work okay that time? Got some more work to do, or you think you got it about sorted out?
I don't know how the car did, but all the runs feel pretty good. I don't know if it smoked the tires. We've been having trouble breaking things and smoking tires all weekend.
How about the canopy? Is that helping at all?
Yeah, it helps. Everything I like, everything about it. It's easy to get in and out of, and helps your vision. Keeps the air off of you, doesn't blow your head around. If you have to move your hands, it doesn't try to blow them away or something. Okay. But it looks good. I like the canopy.
Good deal. Well, back to work. Hope you get it ready.
Thank you a lot.
Thanks, Bill.
Those were the highlights of round 1 Top Fuel action. Of course, the second round will be coming up later on this afternoon. Threatening skies, but a jam-packed grandstand here at the NHRA Castrol GTX Nationwide Southern Nationals.
Well, Steve, now that we brought the folks up to date on first round action in Top Fuel and funny cars, we're ready for some pro stock action. Second round here at Commerce, Georgia at the Atlanta Dragway, coming up right after this.
In Shoals in Jackson County, Georgia. Known to the Indians as Yem Trahuchi, the area was first settled in 1787. Now a park owned by the county, it's about 4 miles from Atlanta Dragway, where we have got round 2 of pro stock competition coming up. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates, and the pro stocks, Brock, indeed do a different kind of a burnout.
They sure do. Not quite as theatrical as the Top Fuel and funny cars, Steve. They don't make a pass almost halfway down the strip like some of the faster cars do, but they sure light those old tires up, and then once again, it's the same purpose to get those big rear slicks really hot.
The beautiful red Trans Am is driven by Ronnie Manchester from the state of Massachusetts. Still looking for his first big win. This man has got a couple under his belt. Bruce Allen and the famed Rear & Morrison Camaro from Arlington, Texas. Allen is in the far lane. In the near lane is Ronnie Manchester, a pair of GM products, 2,350 pounds, 500 cubic inches on racing gasoline, the most difficult cars possibly in drag racing to handle. Off the mark together, wheels in the air in typical pro stock fashion. It looks like Bruce Allen in the far lane. It is going to be Bruce Allen by a clean car length. He will go on to round number 3 of the semifinals with a 767, 177 miles per hour.
good drag race, just a question of raw horsepower on the part of Allen to win it. As you can see, they make a good start. Manchester is right in it from the beginning, but from most of that last half of the race, it's just the pure horsepower of the great engine builders of Rare and Morrison that pays off in the fine driving of Bruce Allen. So this car, one of the finest in the business, will move on to the semifinals.
And a good win here has got to give the Rare and Morrison team hope that maybe they've recaptured their championship form of 1984. Well, here's the man that kind of spoiled that form in the far lane. The current world champion, the winningest drag racer ever, regardless of category, Bob Glidden from Whiteland, Indiana. The beautiful three-tone Ford Thunderbird. In the near lane, it is Joe Lapone Jr. from New Jersey. It will be Chevrolet versus Ford.
Joe Lapone, a former winner of the World Finals, drives for a crew chief well known in this sport, Bill Grumpy Jenkins.
And this smiling gentleman is Bob Glidden, enjoying his 6th Pro Stock World Championship season. And, of course, an integral part of this operation, his wife, Etta, nervously pacing behind the automobile. She'll be watching those rear tires, Brock, to see if the car comes loose at all and try to relay some of that information back to Bob after the run. Glidden in the far lane. The Chevrolet Camaro of Joe Lapone is in the near lane, staged and ready, and they're off the mark. Glidden with a fantastic start. One of his best reaction times in recent memory. It is no contest here. Bob Glidden, 7.59 seconds. Etta with a big smile, 180 miles an hour. Just demoralizes Joe Lapone. He was never even in that one.
Well, Steve, the next pairing should be interesting. This is Butch Leal out of Blacklick, Ohio, and one of the best financed pro stock teams, up against Jerry Ekman from Ventura, California, who's not a regular on the NHRA Championship Trail, but Butch Leal, a regular and always a contender. Earlier, Steve had a chance to look at how Butch drives his car.
We often refer to the Pro Stock automobile as a 4-speed car. Well, it is, but don't expect a single stick as in a street machine. I'm in Butch Leal's Pontiac Firebird. There are actually 4 separate transmissions, and each has its own control lever. Now, this is the reverser. That's backwards. That's forwards. As Butch approaches the starting line, he'll have the clutch in, and his hand will be on this knob and his finger on this black button. Now, that is the line lock. It locks up the front wheels, the front brakes, so the car doesn't creep on the starting line. Now, as soon as he sees the tree activated, he dumps the clutch, and as fast as he can react, he'll pull 2nd gear. About half track, his hand switches to here. He'll pull 3rd gear, and a couple hundred feet before the finish line, 4th gear. Now, at almost 190 miles an hour trying to steer the car with his left hand, his right hand moves up and searches for the parachute lever. Another run complete.
You can see why they call the Pro Stocks among the very trickiest to drive among the drag racing cars. As Leo comes to the line in that beautifully prepared Pontiac Trans Am of his. And, Steve, this could be an interesting race because Butch is known to squeeze the light as hard as anybody, and he is known also to red light on occasion.
That's right. In fact, he gave away the final round at the Gator Nationals earlier this year with a red light up against an opponent who really wasn't even in the hunt. So Leal is always wired to that Christmas tree. He's the defending champion here at the Southern Nationals. In fact, he gave Pontiac his first ever Pro Stock victory just 1 year ago. Now, Ekman in the near lane ran a very fine 762 in round number 1. Leal knows that. He knows that he's not up against an easy one here.
Absolutely right. As we watch them stage, Jerry Ekman, all the way from California in here in Commerce, Georgia, to go against one of the best, Butch Leal.
It is Leal getting a little sideways, but Ekman almost tags the wall. Jerry Ekman had to get off the throttle and still stays within a car length of Leal. Leal, 789. He had his own handling problems. Ekman darn near got him anyway at 180 miles an hour.
And if he hadn't made that U-turn about half track, he might have won it. All right, they call these things factory hot rods, Steve. And boy, are these classic examples right here.
Indeed they are. Don Coons from Cayuga, Indiana. He is driving an Oldsmobile Calais. This is Don Coons. He has come so close to winning an NHRA national event, but still is yet to really bag one. Warren Johnson, of course, he's won just about every event on the circuit. The only thing that has eluded him has been the World Championship. He is in an Oldsmobile Forenza. Now, both of these drivers, I'm sure, were watching the race before them, and they know that this track is not at its best. Both drivers having control problems. The weather is threatening to the extent that the lights are on here at Atlanta Dragway in the middle of the day.
Absolutely. Don Coons in that slightly larger Oldsmobile Calais-bodied car against the little Forenza of Warren Johnson. Both these automobiles with those big 500 cubic inch Oldsmobile engines known to make a lot of horsepower.
That's right, and Warren Johnson has been having handling problems for about a year on and off, but this time he goes perfectly straight. Warren Johnson in the far lane. It is Johnson at 767, 182 miles an hour. He also had the better reaction time. He was off the mark first.
Right, with a 767, 182 miles an hour will win it for Warren Johnson. Now, that is going to put him into the semifinals against Bruce Allen, but Allen does have the lane choice. The other pair will be Bob Glidden versus Butch Leal, and Bob Glidden lane choice in that race.
Well, the fans right now looking at the skies and hoping that the rain stays away. Well, look, they're in good spirits, Brock. Coming up next, the thundering top fuel dragster.
Live in Jackson County, Georgia, you'll sure recognize this site. It's the old grist mill on the North Oconee River that over the years has ground a lot of corn and wheat, and in recent years, before it was retired, generated a little bit of electricity as well.
Well, I'll tell you, Brock, here at Atlanta Dragway, it's top fuel dragsters that are going to generate the electricity. Gary Beck, two-time world champion in the near lane, the red and white car. And he'll be up against in the far lane the man we saw defeat Darrell Gwynn earlier. That is Bill Mullins of Pelham, Alabama. Now, Beck has found the performance and won him a couple of world titles. In fact, he won the final race of last season, the World Finals in Pomona, California. The big question here, Brock, on everybody's mind is the racetrack. It had rained earlier, something, maybe a little water got under the rubber coating on the track, and Gary Beck told me before he strapped into the car, I don't know if this lane can hold my race car.
Well, Steve, lane choice has become extremely critical here at the Commerce, Georgia Dragway because of the fact that the racetrack, as Billy Meyer said, is not used that often, and up to now, the predominance of victories have come from the lane that Bill Mullins is in.
Now, Gary Beck will try to ease that car off the starting line. Try to use his driving ability, maybe hold the brake, actually, while he squeezes down on the pedal. You can bet he's not just going to flat-foot it off the line.
Absolutely not. That lane that Gary's in has shown a lot of difficulties. That guys have lost traction all day long in that lane, whereas Bill Mullins, I would imagine, is going to try to be a little more conservative. Look at this.
There was a problem staging there. Gary actually got too far through the beam. He alertly grabbed the reverse gear, got back, and staged without inconveniencing Bill Mullins. Buster Couch, the starter, handled that very nicely. All right, Mullins in the far lane. He just took his time, stayed very cool. So back in the near lane, Bill Mullins in the far lane. And the big question here is one of traction. They're off together. Oh, it is Gary Beck going up in smoke. Bill Mullins will win it. And you can see there, Brock, that indeed Gary Beck took off as easily as possible, and still the racetrack wasn't there.
Absolutely right. That lane that Gary Beck was in has claimed yet another victim.
Let's take a look again, particularly at the losing car in the near lane, and see how far Beck was able to get. Now, he carried the front end, so the traction is good on the initial launch, but about 50 feet past the tree, there is just nothing there.
So Bill Mullins disposes of Gary Beck with a 577. Not bad, Bill. A little few games played up there on the line, though, right?
Well, it wasn't on the line. When Beck staged, he lit the bottom light first. They backed him out and restaged him. But they just had a little trouble with the light, apparently, on his side on the staging part.
Okay.
Well, we weren't playing any games.
Everybody was cool and relaxed.
Just sort of sitting back and waiting until they got that straightened out before I pulled in and lit the light.
77, are you happy with that?
No, we're a little disappointed, but I think the track conditions will be better, next round.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you. We're just happy with the win.
All right, good.
And he'll be even happier, Brock, if that 577 will stand up for lane choice in the semifinals. There is the long black car of Dan Pastorini, former NFL quarterback, 14 years in the big league. Now drag racing for a living, or trying to anyway, out of Richmond, Texas. He will be up against, in the near lane, Dick LaHaye of Lansing, Michigan. LaHaye certainly has the experience on his side, has won quite a few NHRA national events. Now, Dick's only help in running this race car all over the country is his daughter, Kim. She's in her early 20s, and nobody works harder. Well, maybe nobody. If anybody does, it's the crew chief for this man, Donnie Couch. Now, Couch is the only help for Dan Pastorini, and both of these guys are trying to make a living at straightaway drag racing.
And both unsponsored, so they're the grassroots of this sport. There's Kim LaHaye, Dick's daughter, backing her father into the staging lane. She is a critical element. She is like Etta Glidden. She gets her hands dirty. She tears those engines apart. She is a true mechanic and an interesting young lady as well.
There's Donnie Couch, making sure there's plenty of heat in the motor of Dan Pastorini's car. Now, Pastorini served notice just a few weeks ago at the Gator Nationals that he had matured as a drag racer. Beat Shirley Muldowney in round number 1, and it was Pastorini who literally forced Garlits to that 270-mile-an-hour barrier. Pastorini was so close that Big Daddy had to drive it right out the back door and achieve that notable speed. So Pastorini in the far lane, and that is the good lane from what we've seen so far.
Absolutely. Could be an interesting matchup. Dick LaHaye in the bad lane. Look at this.
Both of them smoking the tires.
LaHaye, though, in that same apparent wet spot, he did recover, but it's Pastorini winning it. But as you can see, Dick LaHaye went up in smoke in almost exactly the same place that put Gary Beck out.
What a driving job for Dan Pastorini, Brock. It takes most drivers a full 5 years to learn how to pedal a car like this, getting on and off the accelerator and trying to keep those tires hooked up. First, it was LaHaye that smoked the tires, then Pastorini.
But there you see the smoke from Dick LaHaye's tires that probably caused his defeat. He recovers nicely and gives Pastorini an excellent run, but it's Big Dan that takes the win.
Well, for Dan Pastorini, a victory over Dick LaHaye, a narrow one, but what a driving job. You were working that throttle brilliantly.
Well, I just felt it let loose and short-shifted it to get the RPMs back down, and fortunately it just hooked up real well, and we were able to get by. It was too close for comfort. Dick's a heck of a competitor, and I raced him before, and he's, you know, what can you say? I'm still a little bit excited. We're not used to this stuff, but
it was close at the finish line, I can tell you that. Only 0.05 of a second between you.
Yeah, it was a close race all the way. But we'll just go back, see what we can do right now, and be ready for the next round.
It'll be Dan Pastorini up against Bill Mullins in the semifinals of the Southern Nationals.
And an interesting matchup that's going to be as Pastorini and Donnie Couch get ready to go one more time. But right now, we're going to come back with a look at this automobile, Gary Ormsby's spectacular new Streamliner. He's up next at the Southern Nationals.
When 15 miles from Atlanta Dragway is the home of the Georgia Bulldogs, the University of Georgia campus in Athens. Founded in 1784. And you can bet plenty of the student body is in the grandstands for the Southern Nationals. It's time for more round 2 top fuel dragster action. It'll be the battle of the Streamliners. Gary Ormsby's car from California up against the black machine from Florida, Big Daddy Don Garlits. Now, we talked about Garlits' record speed of 272 miles an hour earlier this year. Well, he accomplished that even though he's having a lot of problems with those little unique front wheels.
Well, these cars are certainly the shape of things to come. These Streamliners are pioneering efforts. Ormsby's car, based very much on Indianapolis car lines. Gary, a car dealer from up in Northern California, been very successful over the years. But, of course, he's up against the king of the sport, Don Garlits, whose brand new car has been revolutionary, but not without its problems.
When we last saw Don Garlits in Gainesville, Florida, he was busy smashing the 270-mile-an-hour barrier, and the crew is busy after every run repairing the fiberglass nose piece because his unique little 13-inch front wheels were constantly shredding a rubber tire band. Well, Garlits talked then about going to some kind of weird airplane tire, but Big Daddy thought better of it. So here's the new improved version. Now, this is urethane. 6,000 PSI is the strength of the material. What you can't see is that underneath this black material, there's a perforated band through which the urethane is poured. I don't think you could chisel this material off of these front wheels. So Big Daddy is just fine now in the front wheel department.
So, as Chief Mechanic Herb Parks has a final word with Big Daddy, both these men, Parks and Garlits, are confident, as Steve reported earlier, that the new front wheels will stay together.
You know, it's remarkable, Brock, the enthusiasm that Don Garlits still has for drag racing, as much as he did when he was 24 years of age.
30 years ago, really. But now he's up against one of the best, Gary Ormsby. But remember, Steve, Garlits has lane choice, and cannily, and of course, with all that experience behind him, has picked the same lane that has carried so many other men to victory here today.
Gary Ormsby's car clothed in that carbon fiber material, the windshield right off a 1986 March Indianapolis car. Big Daddy's machine, well, that's kind of swamp science. Got that strange nose piece. They're off the line. Big Daddy ahead from the very beginning. Garlits lengthening his lead. It is Don Garlits winning it at 5:50. 254 miles per hour as Gary Ormsby had traction problems, not totally unexpected, in that near lane. Let's take a look again. You will clearly see that Garlits has the whole shot. The timers tell us 5/100ths of a second was his immediate advantage. Now Ormsby trying to hook up in that lane. You can bet he's on and off the pedal. He feels the tires come loose there. The car starts to get a little sideways, and Ormsby knows it's over.
So, as Don Garlits gets out of his car, in kind of an historic moment, the first confrontation between two streamliners, and a victory at a 5:50.
Very good, very good. The track's a little bit touchy right now, you know, coming back from this rain. It seems as everybody's been having to pedal it a little bit, but you're the first one to lay down a really strong run. Do you think the track will get quicker in the semis? It certainly will if it doesn't rain again on us.
Okay, let's keep our fingers crossed. Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, this event has been plagued with weather problems since the very beginning. But as Dan Pastorini said, you think this is bad? Play football in Pittsburgh for a couple of seasons. He put it into perspective.
Well, I don't know, Steve. Joe Amato might take umbrage at that. He's a Pennsylvania boy, a former world champion, who's the man who introduced the high wing in Top Fuel ranks a few seasons ago. And he's up against veteran Gene Snow, who thinks he's found a little aerodynamic trick of his own.
Gene Snow and crew have come up with an interesting twist in the exhaust header department. Now, these are called augmentation tubes. The crew just calls them tomato cans. But this is piston engine aircraft technology. Now, this is the standard exhaust header like all the Top Fuel dragsters use. They call them a zoomy header. But now slipped over and attached are these tubes. The header goes up about 2 inches into the tube. And the idea is to create a vacuum in here so that the exhaust gases flow more easily. And that really is not for horsepower. They're doing that for more downforce from the headers. That's why they're pointed up as it is. And they know that this works because when they warm the car up, they put a rag right here and it sucked the rag right up into the tube.
Well, we'll see how it works in actual race conditions because Gene Snow has got the good lane, the lane that everybody has been winning in so far here on the Atlanta Dragway. Joe Amato, he's got a little bit of a handicap if we go on the past performances. His lane is mighty slippery. There's his wife, Jerry, backing him into what she hopes will be the single part of this racetrack with maximum traction.
Well, if anybody can figure out the combination to run in that near lane, it is Tim Richards, the crew chief on Joe Amato's bright red car. In fact, this is Tim checking the instruments, making sure that the engine is at the right temperature. If the engine gets too warm, Brock, it'll make more horsepower than they really want. Now, Gene Snow's car, he has stolen a couple of ideas from Don Garlits. He readily admits that. Look how narrow the front end is on that car.
Right.
Just about the same as Garlits, but with the conventional size wheel.
Exactly. Remember, Steve, the old wire wheels, ancient history. Good race.
Absolutely. Joe Amato has found the bite in the near lane, but it's not quite identical elapsed time. Both run 5:64, and that tells you one thing. Gene Snow had to have been off the mark first.
He sure did. His reaction time just a little bit better than Joe Amato's, and that is what spells victory. Joe Amato, on the other hand, does an excellent job of controlling his enormous amounts of horsepower in his Top Fuel car to stay in the race right to the end. But it was the veteran Gene Snow in a car so new it's not even carrying a paint job that goes on to victory. Notice that Amato starts to overtake him and in fact runs a higher top speed with an identical ET, but it was the reaction time on the part of Gene Snow that won the race for him.
Well, Gene Snow, drag races don't get a lot closer than that. You both ran identical 5:64s.
Is that right, Joe? Must have been a good drag race.
Indeed it was, and you know, everyone so far has come in the right lane, and that's not the favored lane.
Well, we didn't know which one to pick, and it seemed like it might be the one to do, so we just did it.
Motor looks fine. Everything looks good.
I hope so.
Anytime you get around Joe Amato, you've accomplished something.
Yeah, maybe I left on you just a hair, but, you know, that's unusual.
Okay. Good going. Thank you.
So Gene Snow moves on to the semifinals, but he has the dubious honor of facing the man, Big Daddy Don Garlits, and Garlits has lane choice. I think we know which lane he'll choose based on the past performances. The other pair, Dan Pastorini against Bill Mullins, and Bill Mullins has lane choice in that confrontation.
For Dan Pastorini, this is his second consecutive semifinal appearance. At the Gator Nationals, however, he was beaten by Don Garlits. Can the former football player make the final round?
springtime in Georgia, and all over this beautiful state, the gladiolas are in bloom. But I'll tell you what, the folks that came to the Southern Nationals aren't here to smell the flowers. They're here for a snort of nitro fumes in the funny car competition that we're going to see in a few moments. But before that, let's go to Steve Evans, who's with two-time world champion Gary Beck.
Gary, nothing's more distracting to a driver than a staging problem like you had in the second round.
Well, yes, Steve, the car didn't stage properly. The second light came on. I backed it up to see where I was. So Buster gave me a little help getting in there, and it is hard, but it's, you know, you have to take it every now and then. That's just part of it.
Did you build more heat in the motor than you wanted to?
Not really. We were ready. You know, the track conditions changed. This car has an awful lot of horsepower right now, and it's been smoking the tires on the good tracks. You know, and this track is not the very best, but you have to learn to race on them all. So you got to take it as it comes, and you know we have to try to be able to get down these tracks also.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Okay, like we promised, it's funny car time. That is the man we talked to earlier, the perennial runner-up, John Force, and he's going to get Johnny West in the famous Hawaiian car, Steve Evans.
And as you well know, Brock, the funny cars are even more demanding when it comes to traction. The engines are in front of the driver. They don't have nearly the weight over the rear wheel. So this could be more than just interesting. It could even get a little bit frightening with these cars. John Force, he's got the escape hatch open over in the far lane there to get a little fresh air in. Johnny West, well, he's the latest in a long line of drivers who have wheeled the famed Hawaiian cars for owner Roland Leal. Johnny has campaigned his own dragsters and funny cars out of Phoenix, Arizona for years. John Force, well, you described him as the perennial runner-up. Boy, he's getting sick of hearing that. But 6 times he's been in the finals and yet to win one.
But right now, with Austin Coyle crewing the car, one of the very best in this business, John Force is running stronger than ever. So this could be his day. He sure feels like it. He's got the good lane at this point. But as you said earlier, Steve, these funny cars with their short wheelbase and their front engines are so squirrely that it really is anybody's race.
And you know, the lane imbalance can change in a matter of minutes. We've seen it happen so many times. The right lane will be favored, and all of a sudden it'll be the left lane and back to the right. Depends a lot on the weather. The more action this near lane sees, possibly the better it's going to get. So Johnny West, and he has run on more slick tracks than anybody. There isn't a track anywhere in Arizona that doesn't have a coat of sand on it just about every time you go to the starting line. So Johnny West has got plenty of experience. Oh, and they both lose traction. Johnny West and John Force all over the racetrack. It is John Force getting there first, but it'll be interesting to see if maybe he didn't cross that center line.
Well, we're going to have to take another look at it. Johnny West has declared the winner to 684, and it appears that Force did cross the line. That, of course, is absolutely taboo in NHRA competition. Let's take one more look. Both cars go up in smoke almost simultaneously, and from there on, it looks like a dirt track race, broad sliding down the racetrack. Here's another look. It looks as if both cars leave almost simultaneously, but from there on in, they're out of control. You see Force heading right for the center line. For a moment there, West starts to head toward him as well. But it's Force with more traction problems, and he crosses the center line. You can see the tire mark and the telltale crossover of that center line, which puts him out. John Force declared an instantaneous loser based on that crossing. Johnny West goes on to win it.
Well, John, it had to be a heartbreaker when your crew got down and told you that you had crossed the center line.
I don't know what to say. It just, we knew it was edgy from the dragsters. Coyle said drive it off, and I gave her like 3/4 throttle, and she launched, and it exploded him, and I moved around a lot, and I lost a little vision because the smoke come in the cockpit, and next thing I know, I didn't know for sure because when I come off the center line, and it was trucking pretty good, and I just drove her, and yeah, they told me.
NHRA went down and made a close inspection of where you crossed, and indeed you did.
Well, there's no doubt. Buster don't cheat nobody, so I ain't got no problem there.
Sorry to see you out. This looked like it could have been your car race.
Yeah, we were running hot, and like I say, it's nobody's car race till the final. You know how that is.
Brock's with the guy who benefited from all this.
But Johnny, that was a tense one. It looks as if John crossed the finish line. Did you figure you had him beat anyway?
Well, not really. We both went up in smoke in low gear, and then all of a sudden I got out of mine and tried to get back into it, and it finally started catching up to him in low gear, and I just strung it out as long as I could, and I just barely caught him in the lights, but I think he went ahead and beat me, but apparently he crossed the center line, and that gave us the win.
All right, the next pair, fired and ready. You're looking at the beautiful car of Tim Gross from Southern California. Now, the last race that we covered for you, the Gator Nationals in Florida, Tim had a unique body with the headers coming up through the hood and all of that. He abandoned that whole project. He said, I don't have time to develop things like that when I got to race cars like this. That is the legendary Blue Max, owned by Raymond Beadle and shoed now by John Lombardo. Raymond Beadle drove an earlier Blue Max to 3 world championships. Lombardo has a big seat to fill, but so far he's done a very good job.
He sure has, but he's up against a formidable opponent in Tim Gross, a young man that has paid his dues in this sport, has gone on to win a couple of big ones recently, but it's a long time coming. John Lombardo, a very cool customer, a man who's driven his own cars over the years, but now with Raymond Beadle.
And that is Dale Embry, the longtime crew chief for the Blue Max. For Tim Gross, as you said, Brock, he has won a couple of them. He won one last year and won the opening event this year, the Winter Nationals. And his crew chief is his girlfriend, Barbara Hogan.
Well, Tim Gross finally has some sponsorship support that he lacked for years and years and years, raced as an independent and did a good job, but now he's got the financial backing to make a race out of it.
Tim Gross instantly up in smoke. He has no hope of catching the fleeing Blue Max. It is John Lombardo going into the semifinals at 5.93, 244 miles an hour. That's a time that normally wouldn't even qualify, but obviously that's not the important thing today. It's getting the win light. This man has seen a couple already today. Big Daddy Don Garlit's getting ready for his semifinal match.
And we'll be back to the Southern Nationals after this. This is Georgia, and how's this for your basic college dormitory? In 1839, it said that General Robert Taylor moved all the way from Savannah to Athens and built this house just so his son could attend the University of Georgia. Not bad dig. Now we're back at the racetrack, and that's Gene Snow getting ready for his race with Big Daddy Don Garlits in the semifinals. But right now, let's go to Steve Evans, who's with another player in the upcoming semis.
Tough decisions have to be made down on a track like this. You're not so much looking for power as you are some kind of a combination will get you down the racetrack.
Yeah, the track's real slick. We found that out that last run. The tires broke loose immediately off the pad. So Donnie's definitely making the horsepower, like you said. So what we did was take a little bit out of the clutch, hope to soften it up a little bit, and let it hook up and just slide down there a little bit.
What kind of elapsed time do you think it's capable of running with that kind of combination?
It's really tough to say. You know, if it gets hooked up, the car's run 40s before. We know that. I don't think any 40s can be really run today. The track's just too slick. I think maybe, you know, a low 60 or a high 50, if we could pull it off, could win this event.
That'd be amazing on this racetrack.
Yeah, it really is. Nobody's going down the track very well. So if we just get down it the best way we can, that's all we can do.
It's always a challenge in this thing, isn't there?
Betcha. You betcha. You learn something every run.
Go get him.
Thank you.
What a man. What an addition to the top fuel ranks here in the NHRA. As we watch Pastorini getting ready, though, we've got some round 2 action with a funny car, Steve Evans.
You bet. And this is Ed the Ace McCulloch, the body latched down on the Oldsmobile entry from Hemet, California, owned by Larry Miner, the same car owner for Gary Beck. Beck is out of competition, so the entire team can lend a hand to the Ace possibly. He's in the near lane looking to make it 2 in a row. He won the Gator Nationals. He defeated in round 1 Tom McEwen here today.
Ed McCulloch comes from the Pacific Northwest, where he ran top fuel cars for years, is a real veteran in the sport.
Well, Billy Meyer feels very strongly that today could be his day. He struggled last season. He hopes to get back to the kind of performance that darn near took him to a world championship in 1984. That is a Mustang body funny car from Waco, Texas, and Billy is about to be a drag strip or a racetrack operator. He is currently constructing the Texas Motorplex between Dallas and Fort Worth.
That is the crew chief of the Larry Miner team, Bernie Federle, guiding McCulloch back there. What a job he's had over the years, Steve. At one point, he was running a pair of top fuel cars and the funny car for Beck, Miner, and McCulloch.
Well, Bernie would be quick to tell you right now, Brock, that it's all on the shoulders of Ed the Ace McCulloch, the driver. This is a driver's racetrack. If you don't reel out the proper amount of horsepower, you're just going to beat yourself. And I'll tell you, there's no 2 guys any better at pedaling, as I said before, working that throttle than these 2, Billy Meyer and Ed McCulloch. They do it as well as anybody.
Well, Billy Meyer a lot younger, but he's been racing these things since he was 16 years old, so there's no edge in experience. But look at this race. The racetrack is a factor. both lose traction early in the going, but it's McCulloch in a very slow 6:02, 242 miles an hour that uses the racetrack to his best advantage.
Now watch Billy Meyer in the far lane. You will see him, you'll see the car hesitate where he gets completely off the throttle. Had he not done that, he'd have just blazed the tires right off the wheels. Right there, he got completely off the throttle, got back in it, and at least had a fighting chance to beat Ed the Ace McCulloch. The Ace goes to the semifinal to the Southerns.
Well, Ed McCulloch breaks a 6-run losing streak in the left lane. You were the first man out of the first 7 guys in Top Fuel and Funny Car to win in that lane, Ed. 6:02 wasn't too pretty, but it takes you on to the semis. Got to feel a little pleased.
Well, you know, the weather here and the racetrack condition being cold and wet and everything that's happened here, the biggest thing is to be able to get down the racetrack, you know.
So you were just, obviously you knew that left lane was trouble, so you just kind of pedaled it nice and easy and hoped that he was going to have some problems
we
too?
We took a little different line. Bernie Federley, our crew chief, went up and looked at the racetrack, and he knew where to put me, and so we took a little different line, and it worked.
It sure did. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so McCulloch gives hope to everybody else who's going to run in that left lane. Now let's go to Steve with Billy Meyer.
Well, Billy, you knew with this racetrack you had to go up there soft, but maybe just a little too soft, huh?
Well, we went up there and just decided to let me drive it. And when I let go of the brake to shift, it started smoking quicker than it normally does. And the problem it happened that time is it just kicked it sideways, and it was just a deal where shifting wasn't enough. I had to lift.
This is turning out to be a race for traction and a driver's race.
Yeah, and it just makes me a little upset because that's usually the type I like.
Yeah, you're a slick track specialist.
I used to be, apparently.
Okay, sorry to see you out.
So me. Thank you.
Okay, more round 2 funny car action as we watch Jim Head and Paul Smith face off against each other. Jim Head, a former U.S. Nationals winner and a guy that doesn't seem to get rattled very easily in these kind of odd circumstances, Steve.
That's right. He's an electrical engineer from Columbus, Ohio, has won 2 NHRA national events. Paul Smith, well, I tell you, there's not a hungrier drag racer out there. Look at him, he even looks hungry. Smith will drive anything with 4 wheels on it. He lives to race. You know, I like Jim Head in this confrontation, Brock, because he runs such a conservative combination. He likes to beat you with those 590s while you're over there beating yourself. That has been the key to his success. This is the kind of racetrack he can thrive on.
Absolutely. Jim Head will not get rattled. He will drive. He'll let you beat yourself, but he won't beat himself. He's just very consistent. I would imagine that Head has probably taken some out of the engine, loosened up that clutch a little bit. He's not going to light these tires.
Well, let's see what happens. As you said, maybe the Ace gives some hope to Paul Smith in the near lane. They're away. So far, so good. They are both losing traction. It is Paul Smith all over the racetrack. He refuses to give up. But it is Jim Head who gets down it at 6:22, 248 miles an hour. And the elapsed times are getting slower instead of quicker.
They sure are. There it is. Jim Head and Johnny West will go against each other in the semifinals. Jim Head, with that last run, has the lane choice. Ed McCulloch, John Lombardo in the Blue Max. John Lombardo with lane choice in the other pairing.
I tell you, this happy bunch likes tire smoking sideways drag racing. And this is the pits of the Blue Max. The crew has taken the engine completely apart, checked every piston, every bearing. They're putting it back together for their semifinal effort.
Continues to threaten here at the Castro GTX Nationwide Southern Nationals as we watch the crew of the Hawaiian getting ready for Johnny West's semifinal race. That, of course, one of the big nitro-burning, maybe 3,000 horsepower supercharged engines. Not quite as much horsepower in these pro stock cars, Steve Evans.
I'll tell you, Brock, they're getting darn near 1,000 horsepower out of these 500 cubic inch engines. So on gasoline with 2 4-barrel carburetors. Well, every drag racing fan instantly recognizes that car, the Ford Thunderbird of Bob Glidden. His opponent here in the semifinals is Butch Leal in the Pontiac Trans Am. Leal, the defending champion of the Castro GTX Nationwide Southern Nationals.
Well, of course, Butch packing that reputation as being about as quick on the lights as anybody. On the other hand, Glidden, known as an all-around guy, a terrific mechanic, the man who, along with Whitefetta, prepares that automobile back in Whiteland, Indiana. A brilliant mechanic and a brilliant race driver as well. A complete drag racer.
I'll tell you, Bob Glidden's reaction times at this race have been as good, in fact, a little bit better than Butch Leal's. And there's Etta. She knows any time that they race Leal, he is going to try to leave on her husband. Let's see if he can get away with it. Leal last the stage, taking his time, put a little pressure on Glidden. Leal is finally into the beam. They leap right together. Identical reaction times. This is going to be a classic. Ford versus General Motors drag race. It is. It appears. Oh, Glidden is upside down. Glidden in big trouble. Oh, this is a bad one, Brock.
It is indeed. Got into that fence. The car continues to flop and roll. It looks as if the roll cage stayed together. There's sheet metal and fiberglass all over the racetrack. The NHRA safety crews instantaneously on the scene. So far, no movement from Bob Glidden, though. Everybody in his place. Atta Glidden being consoled by Warren Johnson's wife, Arlene, obviously very concerned about her husband, who's there he comes.
Bob Glidden is out of the car. Bob Glidden appears to be as okay as you could possibly be after a horrendous crash. Let's take a look at it again. The parachute is the culprit. The parachute did not come out properly, yanked the car to one side. Thank the Lord Butch Leal was clear of it, or it could have been even worse. Into the rail, upside down, nose first. And now the worst thing that can happen, flipping on top of the guardrail like that. Now this car is the first one that Glidden has ever owned that had a funny car style roll cage, and I got to think that probably saved his life.
You're absolutely right. The car into that fence at around 185 miles an hour, still rolling, 6.5 full rolls. You see all that bodywork coming loose, but you don't see any of the roll cage coming apart. Bodywork, you can lose. Roll cage, absolutely critical to the survival of this world champion, and it appears at this moment that he is going to be all right. Well, there's the world champion standing tall and straight, being consoled by his oldest son, Billy.
Bob, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh, boy. That's a miracle to get out of that one.
All I can do is thank the chassis builder, Jerry Haas. You know, I don't know what happened. I felt the back of the car come up, and it went over, and I just put my arms around my head, and I was just in there riding along.
I hope Etta knows that you're okay.
I'm sure she does, but now I'm waiting for her to get down here. She'll surely be here before long.
Again, glad to see that you're okay. That just happened instantly.
I don't know exactly what happened.
Well, proving once again that these pro stock cars can reach out and bite you at the most uncertain moment. Interestingly enough, it appears that Glidden won that race. But Steve Evans, I don't think there's any possibility of him returning for the final.
Not only that, I don't think there's any possibility that that car will ever race again. It is destroyed. Again, right at the finish line, watch the parachute. It is not out straight and billowed. It pulls him to one side, and this is what happened. As bad a pro stock crash as the sport has ever known. It took 4 or 5 hard impacts on the roll cage. One side of the cage, the passenger side, collapsed, but not the section where Glidden's in, because it's built much like a funny car. He's tucked inside that steel tubing.
A lot of the energy was absorbed when Bob ran into the steel guardrail on the edge of the track. It acted as like a bit of a big rubber band and did absorb energy. There you see the car just flopping over and over down the racetrack, just rolling off kinetic energy, finally to come to a halt in the middle of the racetrack. No fire, and of course the giant crowd now concerned that Glidden gets out all right, which fortunately brought about a happy ending.
Brock, Etta Glidden has just arrived on the scene running to see if her husband is okay.
See that light to you, hon? Yeah, we're in good shape. Okay, bud? Oh, yeah.
In some ways, Bob is in better shape than Etta. Few couples more devoted to each other than the Gliddens.
That's the crew of Ed McCulloch getting his funny car ready for a semifinal action here at the Southern Nationals. You know what, Steve? It could be more of a race than just between cars. We've got a race against the weather on our hands as well.
Absolutely. It is deteriorating steadily. Now, this would have been the other half of the semifinals. It has suddenly become the pro stock final because Bob Glidden, as you saw earlier, is not going to be able to return to race the winner. So this is for all the money, some $25,000. It is the Oldsmobile of Warren Johnson from just down the road in Duluth, Georgia. And in the near lane will be just about the toughest Chevrolet entry in the pro stock world. Bruce Allen, the Rear and Morrison Camaro.
Well, let's go through this one more time, Steve, as to how this becomes the pro stock final when it's actually the semifinal. Remember, Glidden beat Leal, then Glidden crashed. He can't answer the call. So that means one of these two guys who wins will be Pro Stock champion.
Warren Johnson was off the mark first in his Oldsmobile. Here comes the Camaro. It is Warren Johnson with daylight to spare. 757, 184 miles an hour, wins it for Warren Johnson. Bob Glidden will be the official runner-up. Bruce Allen, a semifinal loser. Let's take another look. The Olds in the far lane. You can clearly see here that he got off the line first. In fact, he had a 0.05 of a second advantage. Well, witnessing the Bob Glidden crash certainly didn't seem to disturb either one of these drivers. They had total concentration, but it was Warren Johnson with a clean victory. Brock?
Warren Johnson basically wins it here with a 757, 184 miles an hour. Warren, that's a de facto victory. Really can push it down to take the title.
Yeah, I think we're all more concerned that Bobby's all right. I think that's the first thing we have to remember about this. It's still a sport. And a win is a win, but the people that make this sport are what we're really concerned about.
Well, fortunately, it looks as if things are okay, but it was a scary moment. What does that do for you when you go to the line right after something like that?
Well, going into a sport of any type of a competitive sport, you try to block out something like that. You know that possibility is always there. So you try to block that out, knowing that it's still there, though.
Right. Congratulations to you. Good job, Warren.
Thank you, Brock.
Just a quick tag on the Bob Glidden incident, Brock. The first thing Glidden did when he got out of his car was cover up his secret manifold with his driving jacket. Here we go. This is the semifinals at Top Fuel. In the near and tricky lane, the black car of Dan Pastorini. In the far lane, the canopy dragster of Bill Mullins.
Both these guys hungry for victory, although Mullins has the big edge and experience. Let's see how it turns out. All right, a good start. Pastorini a little sideways at half track, then recovers to win it in a close race. Pastorini, a 575 in what has been the trickiest lane here at the Commerce, Georgia Dragway. Let's have one more look. Bill Mullins, a little bit better reaction time, just by a few hundredths of a second. He's away first. And there you see Pastorini's car get a little bit sideways, but he recovers beautifully like a veteran. Goes on to drive past Bill Mullins to the victory by only about a quarter of a car length. So Pastorini, surely the biggest man physically in the sport, about 6'5", 225, goes over and puts a bear hug on the man he beat, Bill Mullins. Surely the happiest moment for Pastorini in this sport.
I tell you what, Brock, down here, neither Dan Pastorini nor Bill Mullins knew who won that race. Dan Pastorini, of course, did by only 0.03 of a second, Dan. A 575, your first ever final round coming up.
Oh, man, I tell you, I'm so damn excited right now. I can't even think or talk. I'll tell you, the Mullins group, the Kerry, John, and Shirley they've been pitted next to us all week, and we've been pulling for each other, and it's a strange feeling, you know. Beat a friend, but they're good people. They're great racers. I'm just tickled pink that we're in the final. We're going to go for it.
Well, that clutch worked perfectly, 575.
It did. Donnie made the right adjustment. We'll go back and see how it did. I think it was a pretty clean run. I don't think we hurt anything, so we're going for it.
All right, you're going to race either Don Garlich or Gene Snow in about not long.
All right, buddy.
Well, if he did break anything, you can bet this man, Donnie Couch, will get it back together for the final. Brock?
We got one more. We got one more.
Well, it wasn't until Bill got down here that he got the bad news, actually, from the man who beat him by just a wink, Bill, just a couple of hundredths. It was a super close race.
I thought I caught him, but I couldn't lose to a finer fella. He's a fine drag racer.
Well, he's working hard.
Person.
Well, unfortunately, one of these deals, somebody's got to lose, and we're sorry you did.
Yeah, thanks a lot. We enjoyed it.
Good deal.
Boy, Brock, you can certainly feel the mutual respect between those two drag racers. Well, here he is, Big Daddy. In many ways, he is drag racing. Chief Mechanic Herb Parks latches down the Lexan canopy. Either Garlich or possibly the man in the near lane, Gene Snow, will face Dan Pastorini in the final round. You can see the nitro flames looking out of those headers. It's just dark enough.
And you can see those, as you said earlier, those tomato can zoom headers on Snow's car. It'll be interesting to see whether they make the difference.
A beautiful launch by Gene Snow. It's Garlich who loses traction. What an upset. It is Gene Snow. He borrowed a little Big Daddy technology and beat him with it. A 561 to a 567. A tremendous drag race, and that sets up a wild final. Here we see it again. No detectable hole shot. Snow's car launches like a rocket. About this point, everybody expecting him to lose traction? Wrong. It happened to Big Daddy in the opposite lane. It was he who spun the tires. Gene Snow wins it by just about a car length. Wow.
Well, here is a happy man as Gene Snow gets unbuttoned here. A 5:61, 5:67, a tight race. A little smoke from Garlitz in that minute as Gene Snow gets unhooked here. Got to be a happy man.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. I knew the only thing that would let me win probably was if he made a mistake, and he didn't make it. The track did. I saw the car smoke the tire in front of him, and I said, I got a chance.
Did you go in there reckoning the track was going to be real tricky, Gene, and you're just going to have to take it nice and easy?
No, sir. We go in there with the horsepower to win. If it smokes the tires, I ain't going to be caught short with power.
You had the bad lane, though, didn't you? I mean, the lane that everybody was scared of all day.
Yeah, but they scraped it, and it makes a whole new ball game sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you reckon, after looking at the lane, that it was going to be better?
No, I really thought it was going to be worse, but then Pastorini ran, and I was pretty excited about it.
All right. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
Final.
Now, Gene Snow will enjoy lane choice, but the good news for his opponent in the Top Fuel final, Dan Pastorini, is that Gene just wanted the lane where he is probably going to put Pastorini. Back in the pit area, well, they're getting ready for the funny car semifinals, and this is the pit of Jim Head, that consistent runner who will be up against Johnny West and Roland Leong's Hawaiian. Stay with us.
Southern Nationals in Commerce, Georgia, the Castro GTX Nationwide Southern Nationals to be official, and they're getting ready for some funny car semifinal action, Steve Evans.
And they're getting a little extra treat, Brock. It's so darn dark with the clouds overhead, you can actually see the nitro flames out of the exhaust headers. Anyone who's ever witnessed a nighttime drag race will tell you it is spectacular. Roland Leong checking over the fuel system on the Hawaiian car. His driver, Johnny West, we said before, he can drive down any kind of racetrack. This boy's had all the experience a car owner could ask for. Jim Head, he's been in the winner's circle twice in NHRA competition. He's that real steady. Oh, boy, Johnny West just flat left too soon. There's a red light on the Christmas tree. There's your winner. Jim Head coasters, taking it easy on the equipment. I'll tell you, that's a shock to Roland Leong.
And I'm sure to Johnny West as well. For all his experience, he just left too soon. Terrific reaction time, but a wink too early. You see the red light. Johnny knew it. He backed it down, and Jim Head coasts on to victory.
Well, you don't see that many red lights in funny car racing, but Jim Head, you were the recipient of one from Johnny West.
I'm grateful.
Did you run the car far enough down to get a feeling for the racetrack?
Yeah. It was, you know, it's still a two-lane racetrack. You just saw what happened to the old man in the right-hand lane, and I came close to switching. I mean, it's not a good racetrack, but it's a two-lane racetrack, so I'm not going to punish my stuff for lane choice.
That's what makes good drag racing.
I hope so.
All right, Jim Head will go into the finals of funny car as we get ready for the next pair. One of these guys will be in there as well, Steve. That, of course, is Ed McCulloch against John Lombardo in the blue mask.
Ed McCulloch looking for his second final round appearance in a row. He won the Gator Nationals, had a lot of luck going for him there. Here, he has pretty much outperformed any of the competition he was faced with. One thing you know for sure, when John Lombardo goes to the line, he's as cool as a cucumber. Look at those header pipes, Brock. That is raw fuel exploding outside the pipe.
Well, right now, it's anybody's drag race really here. It's become a case where whenever Kenny Bernstein goes out, which he did in the first round, there are about 6 or 7 guys, including this pair, that are very much capable of winning. So, yeah, I would say this is about a toss-up, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. I wouldn't bet a bob on either one of them here. All right, the final race in the semifinal. Dennis McCulloch away first. Lombardo breaks something. And the ace McCulloch validates what Jim Head just said. It's a two-lane racetrack. A 595 for McCulloch at 252 miles an hour. And Brock, I would just guess that Lombardo broke a transmission because the power went away right at the point where you shipped. And that sets up an outstanding funny car final between Ed McCulloch of California, Jim Head of Ohio. McCulloch will have the lane choice, but that's not going to bother Jim Head a bit. Brock?
So, Ed McCulloch rolls into the finals with a 595. That gives you lane choice against Head, and the racetrack seems to be straightening up a little bit, too.
Well, I think everybody's, I don't know if the racetrack's straightened up. I think everybody's, real leery of the racetrack. So they've got the power backed out of it and, try to get down the racetrack without smoking tires.
Will a 595 win it here, do you think, Ed?
Yeah, I think it will.
Do you?
Yeah.
So you're not going to put any more power back in, or you're just going to nice and easy, huh?
You can't win this race if you're out there smoking the tires. So the guy that goes down the racetrack, I think will win the race.
Okay, well, I hope that strategy pays off.
Thank you.
And now let's go to Steve with a disappointed John Lombardo.
Started yet here.
Well, for John Lombardo, a lose here in the semifinals, and certainly no one likes that. Did something go wrong with the car, Jim?
Yeah, I broke the transmission rear end. I got out a couple hundred feet and let go.
That seems to be the weak link in these cars.
Yeah, when they start shaking. The reversers in them are real weak, and that's where they seem to have a tendency to let go.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
So the cast of characters is set for the Top Fuel and Funny Car finals here. In the meantime, the crews are preparing the racetrack, but we've got a threat of rain. Let's hope it holds off.
Welcome back, everyone, to the NHRA Southern Nationals drag races. You know, just those few minutes that we were gone, the strangest thing happened. The sun went down. It rained an inch and a half. The sun came up again. All the fans left. All the racers left, except for our finalists in Top Fuel and Funny Car. What I'm trying to say is, for you, it's today. For Brock and I, it's tomorrow. No, that's not right. For Brock and I, it's today. For you, it's yesterday. Now, forget it. Let me ask you a question. Would you sell a used car to this man? Well, Gene Snow did, and may live to regret it today, or tomorrow, or yesterday, whatever day this is. Dan Pastorini bought this car from Gene Snow back in February of 1985. Snow had campaigned the car hard all of '84. Snow had bought it from the Kilpatrick and Cannell team, who campaigned it with Richard Tharp as driver in 1983. You may remember it was a beautiful red car. Now, it looks a little different. It's because Dan had to raise the roll cage to accommodate his 6'5" frame. I guess you could call this a low-mileage, clean, 3-owner automobile.
Right, Steve, and whatever day it is, we're here, and we've got ourselves a Funny Car final coming up before we get a look at Dan Pastorini. That's Jim Hatt over there. Remember, he coasted through on an easy pass after Johnny West red-lighted, and, of course, Ed McCulloch still hanging in there, running in what we thought was the bad lane yesterday, but right now, it's probably heads-up racing.
Oh, absolutely. The weather conditions couldn't be better today. This is McCulloch in the near lane, Head in the far lane. I think any thoughts of this being a marginal racetrack, you can forget that. This is a whole new ball game now. They better have come to the starting line with some horsepower.
And probably a different combination. Yesterday was cold and muggy. Today, clear and chilly, but very dry. So let's see who does it. Who's got the right combination?
They are side by side. Neither has an advantage. It is, the electronic wind judge says, Ed McCulloch. Ed McCulloch and Larry Minor's Oldsmobile. How about this, Brock? Identical elapsed times, 6 flat.
Beautiful drag race all the way. These guys had this track handled. Their clutches were perfectly adjusted. It was merely a question of McCulloch's slightly better reaction time, you can see right there. But from there on in, it was an absolute heads-up drag race. As you said, absolutely equal ETs, not particularly fast, still slow, 6.0 seconds. But a winner here at the Southern Nationals, Ed McCulloch.
Ed the Ace McCulloch makes it 2 NHRA championships back-to-back. First, the Gator Nationals, where you were a little lucky. Boy, you won this one clean and fair, Ace.
I tell you, Steve, that was a real close drag race right there. Thing left, went out there, fluttered the tire just a little bit. I couldn't see him, and I tell you, just going into the lights, I saw that red fender out there, and I says, oh, come on, finish line.
I don't think Jim knew who won either.
Yeah, it was real close. Sorry we didn't get it off earlier, you know, last night, but I'm glad the results are this way.
Well, it's a good thing you won when you did, because then your luck changed and your glasses broke.
Well, I tell you, maybe now we can afford to buy some new glasses.
Indeed. Congratulations again to you and Larry Minor and the entire team from Hemet, California.
Thank you.
All right, a very popular winner here. Ed the Ace McCulloch makes it 2 in a row. Now come a pair of men, neither of whom have won recently. Gene Snow, the veteran, he's won some Funny Car titles and some Top Fuel titles. But Dan Pastorini, never a victory, Steve, never a final race.
But this is only his second season. You know, we talked about Dan Pastorini and his used car. Well, I asked Gene Snow about that just before they buckled up. Gene, haven't you ever heard the old adage, you never sell a used car to a friend because it could come back to bite you, like Pastorini?
Well, sometimes. Of course, I was in the used car business a long time, and we had some super stock cars that ran pretty good, and I did sell them, and sometimes we got beat by them. But in this particular instance, I'm kind of proud to be running Dan.
You not only sold him the car, you helped him learn how to drive it.
Well, we were at Green Valley, and I signed his license off, but he didn't need a whole lot of help. He jumped right into it.
Did you think the old car still had what it took?
Yeah, it still does. It ran some 40s at Gainesville, and I think it's as good as there is around.
I don't know. Everybody's talking about your new car being maybe as good as there is around.
Well, it's really not any different. It just looks a little bit different. Our little collector headers and a few things like that, but won't be long till everybody has it, probably.
Never takes long. Good luck to both of you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So a couple of old pals racing here. Remember, Gene Snow said that he signed Dan Pastorini's Top Fuel license. You have to have a licensed driver say he's qualified to run. Look at this. We may have some problems with Gene's car, Steve.
The reverser has gone away. The crew alertly out there pushing him back. That should not present any problem for him because they're getting it back very quickly. You know what, Brock? This is the first ever all-Texas Top Fuel final. Pastorini lives in Richmond, Texas. Gene Snow in Fort Worth. And you know, Brock, Pastorini almost didn't come to the Southern Nationals. His racing bank account has a zero balance. They have no parts in the trailer. Donnie Couch quit his job as a truck driver to volunteer his time to rent on this car. So the prize money here, if Pastorini could win it, could keep him on the road for a few more events.
Well, he's got himself a little bit of a payday no matter what, because the finals do pay off pretty well, but he'd sure like to take home his first ever NHRA title today.
Pastorini in the near lane. Gene Snow in the far lane. It's a shame these grandstands aren't packed to see this. We're glad you're aboard with us, though. You see the front wheel of Snow inching into that beam. Now Pastorini's. This is the final race of the NHRA Southern Nationals. They are off right together, head-to-head. Gene Snow, Dan Pastorini. Who is going to win it? Dan Pastorini's first ever Top Fuel victory. And back at the starting line, an ecstatic crew. Donnie Couch, the man who performed some miracles for Dan in the middle there. Sid Waterman, who handled the fuel injection in the supercharger. I'll tell you what, you think they're happy. I guarantee you that's going to be one thrilled man when he gets out of the car, Brock.
Absolutely right. You know, Snow had a little bit better reaction time, not by much, but from there on in, it was Dan Pastorini driving like a veteran, straight as an arrow, down the racetrack, a 5:56 to Gene Snow's losing 5:64. Didn't win it by much, a full car length, but that's all he needed for his first ever victory.
The teacher and the pupil meet at the far end of the racetrack, but Dan Pastorini today proved he's very much the quick learner. He served notice at the Gator Nationals a few weeks ago, getting to the semifinals, ultimately beaten by Don Garlitz. But today, it was your day, my friend.
I'm telling you, I'm so excited. This is better than winning any Super Bowl. It's better than any experience I've ever had in my life. I'd just like to thank all the people that have helped us out this weekend. I'd like to thank Larry and Glenda Enderle for helping us out financially. John Wallace with the truck registrations, Kendall Oil, my crew chief, Donnie Couch did a wonderful job. I'm just so happy. I don't know what to say.
Now, that sounds like a lot of sponsors, but you and I both know this is a lean, mean operation.
They just help us out, and they've kept us alive, and I'm very appreciative of it.
5:56.
How about that? How about that?
Track a lot better than anybody thought it'd be.
It was a lot better. The heat helped a lot. I think the rain last night kind of washed everything off. The car's going down earlier in the day, and you know, the sunshine just gave it a little bit of sticky that we need. So we got it. How about that?
Touchdown.
You betcha.
Great job, Dan. And from all of us, congratulations to you, proving once again there's always room for a new guy on the block in NHRA Championship Racing. Ed McCulloch wins funny car. Warren Johnson wins that unique Pro Stock final. Again, our congratulations to all of them. I'm Brock Yates for Steve Evans. Thanks for joining us at the NHRA Southern Nationals.